everybody, I'm here with you. That means it's Tuesday. I'm Kate, Lincoln-Goldfinch, immigration attorney based in Austin, Texas. And we come here together every week in English on Tuesdays. Uh-oh. The throat clearing has begun. It's like I'm fine until the show starts. So we're here on Tuesdays in English to talk through immigration updates, what we're seeing in the news. I'm going to answer your live questions. Then I've got an action tip for you, and it's a very busy week of action. Let's see if you can guess what my action tip is going to be for the week. Let's start with the news. There have been some threats by the Trump administration to, this is such an eye roll, send ICE agents to polling locations, obviously as a threat and intimidation against would-be voters. And of course, we know that everybody who votes is a U.S. citizen. But the Trump administration would have all of us believe that there are just droves or caravans even of undocumented immigrants flocking to the polls to cast their ballots. It doesn't occur, FYI. Spoiler alert, that's not true. But that is their stated justification for monitoring the polls with ICE agents. Of course, we know that the ultimate effect of that is that it keeps people away who would go and cast their ballots, many of them probably Democratic voters, people of color, and would have a chilling effect on voter turnout. And so I'm happy to report that two state senators from California, Tom Umberg and Sabrina Cervantes, have introduced legislation in California that would ban immigration authorities from conducting immigration outside polling places. So this, of course, is proposed state legislation just within the state of California, doesn't impact the other 49 states, has to get through the legislative process. But whenever moves like this are made, it brings the conversation to the forefront. And I do think that we need to be paying attention to and talking about this. I will also just tell everybody, please don't let this worry you. Do not let immigration enforcement threats at polling locations stop you from casting your ballot. I mean, I would just freaking dare them. Like, I honestly cannot think of a better lawsuit than some U.S. citizen getting harassed by ICE outside of a polling location. Number one, we're going to have recordings of it. Number two, it violates all sorts of election laws, voters' rights, civil rights. I mean, you would have your pick of civil rights litigators to take that case for you. So do it boldly, march your way to the ballot. If you are a U.S. citizen, get yourself registered and vote, even if there are barricades of ICE agents outside of the polling locations. I just devil dare them. So we'll keep watching that. Of course, all of this is, right now we're in early voting, primaries happening in Texas, but the big one, of course, is in November. Next, we had another killing of a U.S. citizen, but this one happened quietly and the public was not informed. So, of course, we all saw what happened with Renee Good and Alex Preddy. I was just thinking about their families this morning. Like, you know, a lot of people have moved on from those murders, you know, just moving on with your normal life. And I was thinking this morning as I was getting ready about Alex's parents and Renee's family and child. You know, for them, this is so ever present. And may we all not move on too swiftly from what happened. But in any event, a young man, a U.S. citizen whose name, this is like movie drama stuff. So listen up. Ruben Ray Martinez and his buddy Josh Orta were in South Padre Island last March. So South Padre, March, spring break, party season, etc. Homeland Security Investigations, which is basically ICE, was down there conducting some type of operation, and they had created a barricade, and Ruben was driving, Josh was a passenger. Something occurred. ICE shot Ruben in the head and murdered him. Nothing came out about it. There was no video evidence. There was no Renee Good. There was no Alex Preddy. It was just quiet. And of course, ICE claimed that they had to shoot Reuben in the head because he was ramming them with their car. Of course, we know that they say that. And nothing was released to the public. Nobody was talking about Reuben Ray Martinez. But just last week, actually last Friday, the story of his murder broke. And gubernatorial candidate Gina Hinojosa, in her legislative role, is initiating an inquiry into the murder. She wants the body cam footage of the officers. She wants the reports. She's going to work to bring all of this to light. Here's where it gets real creepy. Josh, who's Reuben's friend, on Friday when the news broke, he said, this isn't right because Reuben was not ramming them with his vehicle. We were completely in compliance. Big surprise. And Josh said, I'm going to tell my story. I'm going to testify and tell the truth about Reuben. The next day, Josh died in a fiery car crash. Now, the report from the New York Times about his accident was that he was driving at a high rate of speed and lost control of his car, and the passengers couldn't pull him out before the car burst into flames. But it's awfully suspicious, isn't it, guys? A day after he says he's going to speak out about ICE killing Reuben Martinez, he dies in a car crash. I'm just saying. I don't have any evidence for what I'm saying, but I'm just saying. So, but thank God Gina Hinojosa is on the Reuben murder, and we'll get more information. I'm looking forward to seeing that body cam footage. And who's going to be surprised if somehow that evidence has been destroyed? You know? So, well, let's just keep a close eye on that one, guys. Okay, number 3. The Trump administration, both nationally and in the state of Texas, is moving to end any type of housing assistance for mixed status family. So think U.S. citizen mom, U.S. citizen kids, dad who's in process of getting legal status, and they're on Section 8 housing or housing assistance. The Trump administration is moving to revoke housing assistance for that entire family, kick them out on the streets. Greg Abbott, the state of Texas, are giddy to comply, while also revoking occupational license in the state of Texas for anybody who needs an occupational license. So HVAC, plumbing, electrical. I don't know about roofing. Maybe not roofing. Massage therapy, cosmetology, eyelashes, nails, all that stuff. Texas is also revoking that. There are a bunch of groups working on getting public hearings scheduled on this stuff. So there is a pushback occurring, but that is going down. So anybody who's on federal or state housing assistance and you have a mixed status family, you should start talking to a lawyer now. Next, DHS created a worst of the worst website in December where they gleefully posted people's pictures along with claims that they were charged with really horrific violent crimes. And wouldn't you know, it turned out that was wrong. Turned out that they were putting misinformation out about people. I couldn't believe it the first time I saw this last year. I mean, now we've fallen so far into the racist video of the Obamas. Like that's how far we've fallen. But when I first started seeing on the DHS Facebook page, like pictures of actual people with the charges against them, it was just so gross and creepy. Like, of course, none of these people have been convicted, right? They're maybe not even charged, potentially charged with crimes. And for the U.S. government to be putting out their photo as if they are guilty until proven innocent is just so contrary to our values as a nation. But they went a step further, created a whole website called The Worst of the Worst, and then got it wrong. And then all the charges were wrong. And then they said, oh, whoops, that was a glitch that they worked to remedy. And the spokesperson now says the glitch has been resolved. They are just unbelievable. Okay, next. These, as per the usual bunch of bad news. Refugees. Let's talk about refugees versus asylees for a minute. So asylum law is the body of law that covers the people who are fleeing their country and coming here and seeking protection. And we created this body of law, this idea of a refugee after World War II, after what happened to Jewish people in World War II. international community and the UN all said, okay, a refugee is somebody who's fleeing persecution on account of a protected ground, like their race, their religion, their nationality, their political opinion, their membership in a particular social group. And we created this whole body of law. And there's a distinction between a refugee and an asylee. Even though they both are fleeing persecution, they both have to prove the same stuff. A refugee is somebody who goes through the processing outside of the country. Like they're in some UN refugee camp abroad, okay? And they go to all their appointments, multi-stage vetting process, interviews, background checks, etc. And they finally get to the point where they're approved as a refugee and they get selected to come into the United States. And they come in with protected status. The difference between a refugee and an asylee is an asylee has to get to the United States in order to apply for asylum. That's what the law says. So all the people who come to the border and they say, I'm afraid of returning to my country, those are asylum seekers. Refugees have come over. They've already gone through all of that process. Okay. So refugees are in legal status. They have lifelong protected status. They've been through all the vetting. They are here for good. And they could be refugees for their whole entire lives and just renew their refugee status. There's no requirement whatsoever under the law that they take the next step. But they're also eligible to apply for a green card after 1 year. They can go for a green card and then apply for citizenship down the line. There's a pathway to citizenship that they can pursue if they choose to do that. Well, Trump hates all refugees who aren't white South Africans, right? So, and we know that because he canceled all the refugee programs, but brought in a bunch of white South Africans with a bunch of fanfare and explicitly stated that he was making an exception for them because they, in their whiteness, have suffered racism and persecution in South Africa. Like, I don't know, the white racists in the United States. I mean, that's the distinction. So very, very racist policies within the refugee decisions of the Trump administration. And there are a lot of African refugees, particularly from Somalia, in Minnesota. And we know, of course, now that Trump hates Minnesota and particularly Somali refugees from Minnesota. So what they've said they're doing now is they're going to start detaining refugees who haven't applied for a green card. But remember 30 seconds ago where I said there's no requirement under the law? Like a refugee can be a refugee for their whole life. There's no requirement whatsoever that they apply for a green card. So now the Trump administration is saying these people who have gone through unimaginable persecution and horrors, like what it takes to get refugee status, it would kill most of us. They've gone through these unimaginable horrors. They've lived in a refugee camp. They've gone through the processing in the background. They made it all the way to the United States. They've begun their lives here. Their kids are going to school. They have jobs. They have houses. They're contributing to this economy. And Trump decides he doesn't like people of color who are refugees, and now we're going to detain them. It is like so disgusting. And he literally put out a memo about this, an actual policy. And the way that these things go under the Trump administration is they do illegal stuff, right? They make some illegal memo. They start taking illegal actions. A few people are brave enough to file a lawsuit and they're able to find a lawyer and file a lawsuit. Some federal judge gets the case on their docket. And then after a couple months of, review, they issue some order that tells the Trump administration, you guys are doing illegal shit. Stop it. Cut it out. But in the intervening 3 months or so, a bunch of people get damaged and traumatized and their families are broken apart. And that's what's happening with refugees. And so we are in the middle of that. We are a week after the memo was announced. I will urge anyone who is a refugee who doesn't have a green card, of course, to talk to an immigration lawyer. And if you get detained, please talk to a civil rights lawyer because this is illegal. What they are doing is illegal. And all the rest of us, don't stop talking about this stuff. Don't stop calling your legislators, particularly Republican legislators. Let them know we are not down. And the polls show we're not down. I saw a thing that said that the Trump administration has the lowest approval rating of any president in this entire century so far. That's not a big surprise, but anyway. Okay, and then here we go. Another more evidence of judges getting really fed up with the Trump administration. U.S. Judge Laura Provenzino held a DOJ lawyer in contempt this week for violating court orders. And specifically what happened in this case, she was overseeing a lot of these Minnesota arrests, and she had ordered one of the people arrested in Minnesota to be released from detention and all of his documents to be returned to him. And they just released him and kept his documentation all the way in like South Texas. So he had, no way to get back to Minnesota. And the judge just had it. And she said, I do not accept your excuse of overwhelm of cases and staffing shortages. That excuse is not accepted for the private bar. Like no lawyer like me could go into, I'm laughing even thinking about it, going before a court and being like, oh, Your Honor, I missed the deadline because I'm too busy. They'd be like, get out of here with that noise. Nice freaking try. But the government does it all the time. And they're like, oh, we're overwhelmed, staffing shortages. And so I love it when a judge is like, no, we don't accept this from the other side, and we're not going to accept this from you. And that she took the step of holding a civil lawyer in contempt and was going to charge him $500 a day until he complied. So that's good. Keep it up. Federal judges, keep it up. And, the Supreme Court even spoke out against the tariffs. They disallowed the tariffs, and Trump had a temper tantrum about it. And so that's fun. And it's going to be really interesting. God, is tonight the State of the Union? I think it is, you guys. It's Tuesday. So tonight is the State of the Union, and it'll be really interesting to see what Trump says about the Supreme Court justices to their faces, the ones that decide to attend the State of the Union. And at a press conference the day that the tariff decision came down, he told them that he said that they were a disgrace to their families. Talk about a disgrace. The U.S. hockey team, situation. Okay, so the women's hockey team has won gold for every year in the last 40 years. I don't know if that's exactly true, but every time we have an Olympics, the U.S. hockey team has won gold. And the men's team hasn't won since the 80s, right? And so they win gold. Kash Patel is the FBI director. While we've got cartel violence, war breaking out in Mexico, our FBI director flies to Milan to party with the U.S. hockey team, is in their locker room, shaking beer all over the hockey team. Trump gets on the phone with them to congratulate them, tells them he's going to invite them all to a party. And shame on all of those dudes, by the way. What the hell? And then I'm sure you guys saw this. And then Trump's like, oh, I'm going to have to invite the girls team. And they all crack up. It's hilarious. It's hilarious that this women's team that wins gold every freaking time they go play, and it took you guys 40 years, might have to come share breath space with you. And that our president is comfortable speaking like that. This U.S. men's hockey team behaves that way. That Kash Patel is there like a freaking frat boy. I mean, the whole thing is such an embarrassment. I'm so embarrassed. I'm so embarrassed as a woman, as a U.S. citizen. I mean, it's just, y'all, it is so ridiculous. So, I mean, I guess I'm going to have to stomach the State of the Union so we can talk about it and watch it. But that's what's happening. I did mention Mexico, and I didn't mention in the news update. Mexican military forces with U.S. support killed a cartel boss down in Mexico, in the state of Jalisco, which is on the Pacific side. So the biggest cities in Jalisco are Guadalajara and Puerto Vallarta, which is I live in Austin, and Austin is one of those magical sparkle dust cities where you get off the airplane and you're like, oh, there's something magic in the air. What is it about the city? I don't know. That's why I love it. That's why I live here. Puerto Vallarta has that same magic. When you get off and out of the airplane, you're just like, what is this magic in the air? Puerto Vallarta is such a special place. This beautiful, huge bay, ocean with the whales that come in the winter. Very LGBTQ friendly, a big bar scene, gay bar scene, beautiful botanical gardens, mountains, chill vibes, like super friendly, just really, really special place and very safe, historically very safe. Well, when this cartel boss was taken by Mexican military force, killed by Mexican military forces, the cartel has been reacted in violence, and about 70 people have died. There's been a lot of like car fires and bombings, and people are sheltering in place. As of this morning, Tuesday, it does seem like things are kind of getting under control. But a lot of people who traveled to Mexico have been stuck there, and a lot of people's trips have been canceled. And then, of course, the people who live there are in lockdown and concerned and feeling very stressed about it. So, send a lot of love to our friends in Mexico, and I hope that it continues to be resolved and safer and safer. Love you guys down in Jalisco. Okay, Chispa de Bomba. What are your thoughts / updates on the California and Boston cases on humanitarian parole? I did a video on this last week. I don't know if you saw. The last I checked on this, let's see where my phone is, was probably last Thursday, and it looked like they had just extended the temporary injunction on the humanitarian parole. So just so everybody knows, there was a humanitarian parole program under Biden, the family reunification program, that brought in people from certain countries. I'm not going to get them all right. Colombia, Cuba, Haiti, Venezuela, Honduras, Nicaragua, to come and reunite with relatives and family members. And it was a way for people to apply to come in, even if they were in like these long paperwork processing times for family-based cases. And they came in on family reunification parole, so legal status, and they were given work permits and etc. Well, the Trump administration decided to cancel that program and revoke the protections for all those people. And there's been litigation, and the federal judge has extended the protection for the parolees while the litigation is ongoing. So the injunction was issued January 24th, and it has been extended. And I don't see, let me just make sure. I don't see, there's not been any updates on this. It's still just pending. My guess is that the judge ultimately, like when there's a temporary injunction like that, it is an indication of how the court will rule. It doesn't always work that way, but it kind of gives you an inkling. So my guess is that the judge is going to ultimately disallow the revocation of that program, meaning all those people stay protected, and then it'll get appealed. Where is this case? I'm trying to guess how the circuit court would rule. I think it's in the Northeast, Boston, maybe. I think that the circuit court would be supportive, and then it would go up to the Supreme Court. So still fine and good. No updates on that. Henry Lopez, you have a question about your case, Henry, how your process is going. If you could message your legal team for an update, and they'll be able to let you know how it's going. If for any reason, guys, there are 15 lawyers on my team. They're all amazing. All the paralegals on my team, like everybody who works at Lincoln-Goldfinch Law, is intensely passionate about the work that we do. It's a prerequisite to working here. You don't like not care about immigration and come work at my firm. And so the team is awesome. And sometimes things occur, where somebody reaches out and they don't get a call back. And we always look at it within our systems, like what happened? Did that call get missed, or did the message not get passed properly, or where did that breakdown occur? And we're constantly looking to find and fix any situations like that. We want to know. So if you have reached out to your team and you have not gotten a response, I want to know about it. Send me a DM and I will help you get to the bottom of it. But first, start with them. Start with the process, because you have a lawyer, you have a paralegal, you have an admin assistant assigned to your case. Each client has those 3 people assigned to you. And these teams are specialized. So we have the lawyer who does all the humanitarian cases, the lawyer who does all the deportation cases, the lawyer who does all the detention cases, and they know their particular practice area really well, as does the paralegal, as does the admin. And so they're really up to speed and they know what they're doing, and they are the best person to talk to you about your particular case and what's going on. But so you got to go to them first. If for some reason you don't get an answer that is satisfying to you, tell me about it. Send me a DM and I will help you. And that's how that goes. So thank you for the question, Henry. Tomás. ¿Cuánto tarda un permiso de trabajo por VAWA? The question is, how long does it take a work permit for VAWA? Probably about a year is what I'll say right now, a year to a year and a half, because it's taking just 6 months for the receipt notice, and then you still have to get the work permit. So probablemente alrededor de un año, Tomás, o un año y medio. Okay. My child is a U.S. citizen. Is it a good idea to put a copy of their birth certificate in their backpack in case ICE goes to their school? The reason you would do that is in case they get questioned about ICE. I have not heard yet about ICE going into school and harassing children alone about the child's status. I have heard stories of ICE going into schools and asking children about their parents. So they bother the kids to look for the grown-ups. That has occurred in a few instances. I have not heard of ICE going after kids. You're going to say, what about that little boy in the blue bunny hat, Liam Conejo? He was with his dad. So he wasn't alone. And despite what they told us, his dad did not run away. So I don't think it's a real threat based on what we've seen that ICE is going to go just like pick up kids. So the reason to do it is so that your child has proof of their citizenship. The reason not to do it is because if they get, kidnapped by a bad guy, then the bad guy is going to have their civil documents. And I don't like that for like protection against trafficking. You know what I mean? So I don't know. I don't know that I would put my child's legal documents in their backpack unless the child is an immigrant or the parent is undocumented. If either parent is undocumented, what we do want to do is have the custody agreement in the backpack. So like if parents are undocumented and we've picked someone else to be in charge of the kids, if the parents get picked up, put a copy of that in the backpack so that the police, ICE, whomever doesn't decide to just like hand this kid over to foster care. If there's a pre-existing decision by the parent that like, oh, my sister or my friend is in charge of my child, should I become incapacitated or detained, then they need to follow that document and they can't decide on their own to put the child in foster care. But I don't know that I would recommend a birth certificate in a kid's backpack when they're going off to school by themselves. It's a very personal decision though, Any advice, this is Vaughn, any advice for a Spanish medical interpreter when confronted with someone from a detention center? I have a family member who has had this situation. What do you mean when confronted with someone from a detention center? Like the person is on an interpretation line. They work as an interpreter and they get called in to translate on a medical condition of the detention center. Oh, I see here. Specifically seeing someone who is having a medical event. Oh, obviously HIPAA is an issue. What if they witness human rights violation in process? You know what I would say? Ask that person. This is a little out of my purview, but can I reach out to someone for you? Do you have someone you want me to call, whether it be a family member or a lawyer, and ask that person if you can basically violate HIPAA and go to someone that they select for you. And I mean, maybe you face discipline in your job or by your company, but maybe we don't care. Maybe like these are the ways that we resist. That's what I would recommend. I mean, I don't know what that violates, but I would say like, is there someone I can call for you? That's what I would do. Claudio, I'd love to have you on my podcast to talk about immigration laws. Just do it. Let's do it. I talk a lot about that. I wouldn't even have to prepare, Claudio. I could just show up and do it. Let's do it. Okay. Does having a U.S. citizen child automatically protect parents from deportation? Absolutely not. No. In fact, U.S. citizen children are being detained with their parents in Dilley. We saw that little 2-month-old baby girl. No, it was a baby boy, Juan Nicolas, who was 2 months with bronchitis in Dilley and got deported with his mom. And then there's a bunch of kids in there, and there's a woman who's like about to give birth in Dilley. Can you imagine, how stressful that is when you're like on the precipice of delivering your baby and like, how's this gonna go? Am I gonna have an epidural? Am I gonna have a natural birth? Like, am I gonna be in good hands? All those questions that we are just like obsessed with when we are on the brink of giving birth. And imagine you're in somebody else's hands that doesn't give a shit about you in a jail cell. I cannot even. So to answer your question, no, it does not protect parents that their children are U.S. citizens. Okay, Kenneth and YouTube, I got a couple more questions. Thank you. Keep educating us. So many are clueless about immigration laws. So sad and scary what's happening. Thank you and your team. You are angels in these dark times. Thank you, Kenneth, for saying that. And I will tell you, like, I get messages like this, and they really do lift me up. When you guys say this stuff to me, it matters, because you might imagine I get a lot of hate comments. like really absurd ones, people love to attack like my hair. They tell me I'm ugly, I'm fat, I'm stupid, all that stuff. So I feel free to say nice things to me all day long. Okay, Vaughn, the person denied their regards present at the medical center. The person said they did. Well, I mean, if the person doesn't want anyone contacted, then but if they're scared, I don't know. It's that person's decision. If that person says, I don't want you to tell anybody, then that's what you do. I have the same confidentiality rules. So I'm obviously not going to tell people's stories without their permission. And a lot of people don't want their stories told. They worry about retaliation. It's a whole extra thing to have to like go public. I called your office, but I want to call if I was surprised. The person was begging. Oh, well, the guards said they could not. Yeah, I would be like, what's the phone number? Tell me the phone number. The guard, what are they going to do? Clap their hands over this person's mouth and be like, tell me your phone number. That's what I would do. I got it. Yeah. It's sort of like somebody who's being detained. If we're standing witnesses and somebody's being violently detained by ICE, we need to talk to that person and say, what's your name? Who should I call? Who should I call to tell them about this? Okay, image merchants. When is someone going to get access to Dilley to check on the girls people are saying are out of everyone's views? I know that Congressman Joaquin Castro has been very attentive to this issue. He was really involved in Liam's case and little Juan Nicolas's case. And I know that they're trying. I don't know the inside of like what is being done. But I know that there are people in power who are paying attention to this issue for sure. I'm planning on going to visit some people in Dilley too, and I'll tell you guys about it once I do that. And that takes me to the action item of the week. It's a little bit busy for me this week because we are in the final week of early voting. The election for the primary is Tuesday, March 3rd, literally 1 week away. Can you believe it? We are almost there. I am running for the Texas House of Representatives in HD 50, which is the seat that James Tallarico is vacating to run for U.S. Senate. There are 6 people in my race. We've managed to run a very friendly, collegial race. It's not been nasty. Thank goodness for that. But if we want someone like me, who is an immigration expert in the Capitol, we need to vote. and get me elected. So this week is a pretty important week, obviously, because all these people are going to the polls. So we've shifted our efforts from door knocking to what's called poll watching, where you go and you stand at the polling site 100 feet away from the door and you tell them about me. And we need volunteers. There are about 6 polling sites in the district that are pretty busy. I've been out every day since last week talking to voters. It's been pretty fun. And I invite anyone who wants to come be a poll watcher to come join me and help me do this. You can work a shift. The polls are open long hours over the next week, and I'd love to have you join. So that's number one. Number two, we are having another Love Fest for immigrants. It's called Two Immigrants with Love on Saturday at my law firm. It's just a community gathering where we have open mic and people are going to read poetry and sing songs, and we're going to be learning some resistance music and chants to sing at protests and the Big No Kings rally that's coming up on March 28th. So if you love that stuff, come see me on Saturday from 11 to 1 at the Two Immigrants with Love, and then sign up to volunteer to poll watch if you're available for that. And that concludes the show for today. I'll see you guys on Thursday en español, discutiendo las mismas cosas. Thanks for being with me. Love you very mucho. See you soon.